after 20 plus years in the Army, 19 of that, which we were together for, is I went to work, I'd go to work at 4:30 in the morning, come home at 6:30 at night, walk in the door and the laundry's not done and dinner's not ready and the house is a mess. And I'd be like, what does Kate do all day? And I'll say 3 weeks into this, I'm sorry. I apologize. I get it now. I thought I was going to retire out of the Army and I was going to gain all of this time. I was going to have all this time to do all these things, whatever things I wanted to do, because nobody's going to be telling me what to do. But I quickly realized that, since I've had this, I do get up in the morning and make breakfast for everybody, before they go to school. But you drop them off at school at 7:30. I go to the studio or come home and do some work around the house. All of a sudden it's 1 o'clock. I've got to get back to the house and pick up the kids and put the laundry in. And, I forgot to put meat out for dinner. So I got to go do that. I definitely didn't appreciate the lack of time. I thought you were just taking naps all day.
No.
And now I realize that's not what's happening. Welcome to the Leading with Vulnerability podcast. You guys all know me. Well, I guess you guys all know Kate too. I'm your host though, Yuma Barnett. And today my guest is my wife. Again, this is our third time on the podcast. So I must be hurting for guests if I got Kate on here. I'm just kidding. It's great to have you.
Thanks a lot.
And today, I've been retired from the military now for about 4 months. If you don't count terminal leave in there. If you count terminal leave, it's been a little bit longer than that. But we are often asked when we see people that we know or people, family members and stuff, the first question is, how's life now? How are things going? So I just thought we would hop on here and share a little bit about our lessons learned and what's been going on in our life since my military retirement. And it's been busy. There's been a lot going on. And I think there's some good lessons learned here that hopefully you guys can learn from us. And when it's time for you to retire from service or make a big transition in your life, that you can learn from us. So it's good to have you back on here, Kate.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Thanks for doing this late at night when you have to go to work tomorrow, which
I was voluntold we had to do this.
So I appreciate it. And like I said, we see a lot of people, then the first question they ask is, how are things going in retirement? And I really think the way to start that is we got to kind of take a step backwards and look pre-retirement. And when I think about, pre-retirement, when we were sitting here talking before we came on and started doing this thing live, is there's a lot of worry and anxiety and doubt and fear and a lot of things that go into retirement, right? And there's a lot of outside voices and outside influences that go into it. And a lot of people asking, the first question is, what's next? What job are you going to do next? Where are you going to go? Are you going to go to school next? Are you going to find a job next? What's next for you? What's next for the family? Where are you going to live? And there's a lot of open-ended questions there that you probably don't necessarily have answers to, that just can kind of drive that anxiety and that worry up. And I'll say from my own perspective, pre-retirement is I just needed to take a step back and slow down and kind of shut off those outside voices and those outside questions and focus on what I knew was important, which was the whole reason why I was transitioning from service, which was the family dynamic. I wanted to, be more stable for the family and for Kate, so she could follow her career dreams and aspirations. And to do that, I really had to just stop listening to the outside influences, whether it was family or fellow, former coworkers when I was in the service, and refocus on just what I was doing in the first place, which I just wanted to be a better husband and a better father. So that's probably the most important thing for me pre-retirement is putting those people aside and focusing on myself and my family, and not worrying about how I was going to answer everybody's questions when they asked what was coming next. What were, before the retirement, what were some of your thoughts before we came into it?
What makes me think about when we talked about if I do retire, what is that going to look like? If I stay in the military, what comes next in the Army if we stay here? And Jackson voiced his opinion.
Yeah.
He missed his dad. He wanted his dad around more, and I don't blame him. I wanted dad around more too. And I think that definitely was the main reason for this decision is to have you around more and just do something different, because this has been our life forever.
Right.
And there is an end to military service.
Yeah.
It's not forever.
Right.
And you were thinking, I can stop now and maybe do something else. We can do something else. We can travel. We can do stuff as a family, not planning things around my training and deployments, but just be a family together.
Yeah.
And that was important to us.
Yeah. And I think, the questions, anything revolving retirement and what happens after retirement, it all starts before, right? You got to start well in advance, opening those communications and having those uncomfortable conversations with your kids. You've all heard when Jackson told me he was done with the military. Those conversations with your spouse when, Kate's been sitting at home for, 19 years with a master's degree in education sitting on the shelf, switching roles, doing all that stuff, and we just, recentering on not the Army anymore, which the Army was really the center of our world for such a long time. Not because family's still number one, obviously, but the military, the Army dictated, everything we had to do, right? There wasn't a vacation that we went on pre-retirement where I wasn't checking emails, receiving phone calls, and even at some times having to go into work.
Family would be off or on vacation and wanted us to join, and most of the time we couldn't do that.
Right. We knew about 6 months in advance for the past 18 years, I'm going to have this 2-week period off and I'm going to have this 2-week period off. And those, although they're not set in stone, those
they
time
can
periods
change in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And then depends if that 2-week period, if I was going to spend a week of that here at the house, that meant I was just a phone call away and a 30-minute drive from going into the office to put out a fire. So,
and 2, you might have to move.
Yeah.
And that's something you're not sure about. You don't know where you could be living next year in the next 2 years. So that was something that I think played a big part in it too, is we liked it here and the kids were getting older and we wanted them to make friends and to form a community when they were in school and kind of growing up. So
and there's people out there listening that go, they liked it in Fort Benning and Columbus, but Kate's from Atlanta. I always joke, we're close enough to the in-laws and family to where we can go see them, but we're far enough away where they still have to give us a phone call before they show up. So
you can't just knock on the door.
We like this community that we're in, in North Columbus, north of Fort Benning. We're about 40 minutes north of Fort Benning.
The kids like it.
The kids like it. The schools have been great. The community's been great. So we liked it here and decided to call it quits here, which brings us into now, the retirement, and we're in the retirement. And I think probably the biggest thing with my retirement from service was the timing that it happened. It worked out at a very good time. And and we'll get into it later, some of our pieces of advice to you if you're in a military retirement or a transition in your life. But you have a say when you're going to retire, right? It just so happened when I brought up the calendar, looked at my paperwork, my enlistment documents, my contracts, I'm eligible for retirement at X, but you can kind of push that out left or right as you're choosing, as long as you're over that 20-year mark. And I happened to pick May 1st, which couldn't have been better because it brought us into summer vacation for the kids from school, and Dad's out of the military now. The kids are at home. So we got to reintegrate as a family without the thought or the the constant over, the 75th Ranger Regiment hanging
Mm-hmm.
over Dad's head,
Mm-hmm.
which occupied his life, his whole time. So the timing of my retirement was not planned necessarily the way it was. It just worked out. So to
Mm-hmm.
anybody out there
And it
who's,
worked out for us.
yeah,
We're not saying it worked
yeah,
out for
but
everybody.
you have more say
Mm-hmm.
in it than you realize. So um, make that part of your calculus. When do I want to retire? What, down to what month do
And
you want to
communicate it with your
retire?
family.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I'm looking at this date. What do we have going on? What's the future look like? What's this look like during the
Yeah.
time?
Yeah. And, it worked out for us. So we went into, the retirement in May. Kate was substitute teaching for the last, year and a half. So I was able to, because I knew about 2 years ago that I was going to,
Yeah.
retire, not continue on in
It's
service.
not like a week ahead of time
Right,
thing. It's
which
like
is
a years ahead of time.
Yeah, if you can look a couple years in advance and
Yeah.
know when you're going to do it, you can set yourself up career wise. Because I was able to position myself with the help of the leadership at the time in a position in the military that was less demanding, to where I could help Kate, who's, as I said, been sitting there with a master's degree on her shelf for years,
Mm-hmm.
get back into the school systems and prepare for her next venture on the other side of the
Mm-hmm.
uniform. What's your thoughts of that, leading into that retirement?
Well, I honestly didn't think about it too much. You're in this way of life for 20 years, almost 20 years for me, over 20 years for you. But um, I was like, oh, we got time. It'll happen when it happens. We're still part of the Army, the 75th Ranger Regiment. I hate to say that, and then all of a sudden it happened.
Yeah.
And then we were out, and it was definitely a transition, but I didn't want to focus on it. I think, and that made me personally feel better, because it is our whole life, and it's scary to think about. This is what we've been through for 19 years together.
Yeah.
And now it's not. So that was me not preparing very well for it. But
yeah. And I think that's where it comes in as a partnership.
Yep.
Kate, that takes some courage to admit that you for whatever reason you weren't looking
Mm-hmm.
at that retirement as seriously as I was. You weren't thinking 2 years ahead
Mm-hmm.
like I was. You're just kind of
yeah,
waiting for
I was
it to
thinking
come.
more emotionally.
Yeah. And I think what it was is there was a time a few months before the retirement, and you're kind of going through the financial pieces of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Kate she said one night when we were talking, so wait, you're only going to get paid once a month
Yeah.
now, and it's going to be,
That didn't register.
it's going to be less than half.
Mm-hmm.
If you take VA out of it, it's going to be less than half of what we make now once a
Mm-hmm.
month. I think that's when it kind of dawned on
Yeah.
you where
I was
we were at.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So you need to have those conversations. You both don't have to be planners, but you need one of you to be looking
Mm-hmm.
deep and making sure you're opening those lines of communication to prepare for some of that stuff that's going to be coming, financially, role wise,
Mm-hmm.
expectations of one another as a husband and wife,
Mm-hmm.
expectations as a family unit, what you can expect there. So, and I think another one that we didn't realize, and I think we're still kind of getting into this, is the loss of community that
Yep.
we're still trying to figure out and navigate.
Mm-hmm.
Friendships and people outside of the military, because forever it was kind of, they were just there. They were part
You
of
have
it.
your village.
You have your village, your Army people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you can speak about it a little bit. Coming out, you had the FRG for years
Yeah.
that you were a leader on, and then one day
Yeah.
you're not part of any of that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the FRG is like a family group that kind of supports one another when their spouses are deployed. And it's nice to have like-minded wives or spouses whose husbands are gone all the time and have kids at home and are trying to juggle the day-to-day. That's really nice to have that to lean on when you need it. And slowly transitioning to retirement, I got farther and farther away from that. And it's hard to have that community that you're used to all the time, and you're constantly meeting new spouses, brand new wives who just got married or they just moved here. And it is exciting, and it's a sad thing to not have anymore. And I have mourned it. I have a good friend who I still talk with regularly, and her husband is very much active in the Army, and we're not anymore. And it's so different. And we are so much alike that we have a lot in common, but there definitely is that disconnect because she has all of that Army wife stuff going on and all of these events to go to and these social events. And I don't.
Yeah.
And it is really sad, and I will miss it, I'm pretty sure, for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think you will. And I think it's a tough transition. I definitely see Kate has FOMO every once in a while, the fear of missing out when she sees when a big event happens.
Pictures on
Facebook. Pictures on social media when a big event happens, and all these spouses are gathered that Kate knew for years, and now all of a sudden she's not she's not part of that anymore. And I think in the military, as most of you know, there's like 3 buckets of military spouse. There's the military spouse that wants absolutely nothing to do with the military and has their clan of civilian friends and people in their area, and they have nothing to do. You have the military spouse who their husband doesn't tell them anything.
They're clueless.
They don't want to, but they don't want to be involved with the family readiness group, and they're just hermits that live in their house and aren't involved with anything. And then you have your third bucket, which is like Kate, who's been involved in it. I'll say it wasn't her idea to be a key caller. I just came home one day and said, "You're a key caller," when 16 years ago.
You're going to volunteer for this job.
But I think that was a great thing because if I look at those buckets of people in the military, those other 2, those are where I've seen the most problems with divorce and marriage issues, because at some point that in that first bucket, the spouse that's intertwined with the civilian community, that husband had to move at some point. And now all of a sudden she didn't have anything and didn't know how to integrate with an FRG because she didn't want to. Then you have the other one who doesn't get told anything, is just kind of a hermit staying at the house. And that ends up creating...
Don't talk to anybody.
that you have to be social as a human. That's just the way it goes. So that ends up deteriorating because you only have each other. No social life. That spouse has no social life. And not that there's not problems in the third bucket of the wife that's involved.
You can be too involved. You can't be too involved.
I have seen, the most success as a spouse and as a couple are those that are involved, right? And I'm talking over 20 plus year military career, not somebody who just comes in for 4 or 5 or 6 years and then bounces back out. But we do miss that stuff. What is that?
The ice maker.
Oh, I thought it was a kid that was awake, but I think it's the ice maker doing stuff. We're doing it in our sweet living room studio today.
The kids are supposed to be asleep.
I know they have school tomorrow, but back to it. It's hard. It's hard to re-find your community. It's really hard for me because I came from an A-type personality. Everybody went to selection to get put into the organization that I came from, and now we all went through a lot of things over 20 years of war, and to go hang out with the other dads who work at Aflac and the car dealership and the insurance company,
they get off work at the same time every day.
We speak different languages, and I'm still trying to find my groove there, which is one other reason I didn't mind staying around here in Fort Benning, because I knew I'd be around some like-minded people.
Well, and 2, we just attended a change of responsibility for a good friend, and it was like going to a family reunion, and it was so fun to see. I mean, we didn't even know half the people that were there were going to be there, so it was nice to kind of turn around and be like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were coming." But without the responsibility of going to the luncheon afterwards and then back to work for however long, and then the barbecue later, and then have to get up again at 4:30 in the morning the next day.
Yeah, it was nice on my side to be able to watch and spectate and not have to participate in some of the mandatory stuff. So it's something, some people are better at it than others, finding their new people when they get out.
We'll always have FOMO though.
Yeah. We'll have, I mean, it was
That's okay.
It was just such a part of our lives for such a long time that it's going to be. That's why I think we still flock to those same people and those same types of people. But you know, the retirement has been great. And it's because we communicated about it up front. We set expectations for one another. We set expectations for the family, and I put things in motion while still in uniform to help with the transition, like being able to be around more while you could do the substitute teaching and all that stuff. But it's been good. I recommend it for anybody out there who's on the fence. You either got to be all in with the military, I think, and I was starting to. My family was pulling me in another direction, and I'm glad that I went that way. Do you got anything else on just the, this first few months really that we're in retirement? There's somebody out there that's been doing it, like retired for 5 years. You're like, these people have no idea what they're talking
what
about.
What are you talking about? Well, I just want to say, like, not that we were intentionally like, no, we're done. This is stupid. We can't do this anymore. But I think just kind of certain things were going on, and we looked at each other, and our kids were getting older and voicing their opinions about being upset that dad's not here, and just things that were going on that should be as a family, and they weren't, and it was kind of just fell into place.
Yeah, and an arguable point, I'm sure somebody disagree, but it seems like backwards that the military, especially in our community, the higher you go in rank, the less predictable your future can be. You could be moving every 2 years all over the world. The more senior you get, which seems kind of backwards, right? And our kids weren't. They're just not good with that.
Yeah.
That constant change.
Yeah, they're not easy. Kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a couple of them are. We're not sure. They're kind of young yet, but at least the older two.
But my decision's been made.
Yep.
We're here. We're doing the retirement thing, and it's been good so far. And I'll say, when I run into people that are still in uniform, that are around the same rank that I was when I got out, the first question that they'll ask, if I know them well, is financially, how are things financially when you retire? And I'm not going to break down Kate and I's finances for the world here, but I will say if you take care of your business, between your military retirement, your VA, and anybody who's done 20 plus years in service, especially the last 20 plus years, with as busy as we've been, you're going to have things that the VA are going to compensate you for. And then with Kate being able to get, we're able to stabilize, and she's able to get a job, a permanent job. Financially, we're better than we've ever been in the 21 years that I spent in the service.
And this isn't something that just happened. We've kind of been planning for it too. And I will say, not to make Yuma toot his own horn, but I would not have kind of taken that leap to get into the job field and to start pursuing teaching if it wasn't for him. I was probably a little too comfortable sitting at home or being the mom at home, and that was okay with me. And I definitely did miss out and wanted to pursue my dreams, but after 13 years of doing the same thing, and he needed to push me, and it was a good thing. It was a good push. So I started substitute teaching, and in teaching, you can't just go out and get a job. You kind of have to get your foot in the door and network. And so that was the purpose of me substituting. So I did it for 1.5 years. And thankfully, very thankfully, I did get offered a job. So
yeah, and I'll say, because of this podcast and because, we talk about the importance of networking and building a community, that's what got Kate a job.
Being vulnerable.
But I'll say, not to speak for you, you can definitely rebut on this, but I think you had a thought in your mind. You've got an undergraduate degree, you have a master's degree in education from a prestigious university in the art, Kate's an art teacher. I think you thought it was going to be easier to find a job than it was, because you had the required paperwork and the experience. The only thing you lacked was experience in the classroom. But it turns out, networking is just as important in a teaching job as it is in any other job.
Yeah. And Yuma said before, being a specific teacher, like you can be an elementary teacher, you can teach middle school, you can teach different subjects in middle school and high school. And in most states, you can get certified in multiple things, but I'm only certified in art in Georgia. And so that's a very specific niche that I wanted to stick with. I didn't really want to teach anything else. But I won't name names, but I would not be in this position today if I had not networked and met people and put myself out there. And those friends that I've made are the reason that I have a job today.
Yeah, well, friends are what opened the door. Kate's work ethic and who she is, I think, got her the job. But don't sell yourself short there.
Okay, yes,
babe.
thank you.
But I will say, if you are that spouse who's been sitting on the sidelines for years, supporting the family, and you have all these qualifications, it's important to start that networking process outside of your circle.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't be the middle school art teacher, that you are now if you hadn't started making those.
Right.
If you thought it was just putting your resume on the county websites and getting there, that might have done it eventually, but it's who you know in every environment. It's who you know.
Yeah. And not that it was an easy journey. I've definitely had some problems and things happen that just kind of set me back, and really upsetting things happen. I applied for a job and didn't get it. I didn't even get an interview. So that was really, really upsetting. But things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what led to our wonderful role reversal. Kate, she's like on 3 weeks now of going into the classroom. Her actual first week with students will be next week, but she's been going in, setting up the classroom and making it her own for about 3 weeks. So,
and I had professional development last week.
So I've been the one at home with the kids for the duration of that 3 weeks. So I get a lot of, when is mom coming home? Because our parenting styles, I'm a little more Army and she's a little more mom in that. What did I
sympathetic.
say? A little more sympathetic, or baby them, I think is what I used.
Yes. Okay. I baby them. Not terribly, but I'm softer on them than you are.
And it's going to be dependent on anybody's situation, whether you go into a role swap like that, or if you go, it could be status quo. Dad continues to go to work and mom stays home.
But I think you wanted to see what it was like.
Yeah.
And you want to be with the kids.
Right. Yeah. But it has
maybe not this much, and you're glad that school starts tomorrow.
Yeah. It has been an adjustment for me, but it's also been an adjustment for the kids. Yeah. Just because they're used to having mom around all the time. It's been, for Maverick, who's 4 and will start pre-K this week. It's, I get it at about noon, from about noon to 3, probably 10 or 12 times. Where's mom and when's mom coming home? So, switching up, it's been great. It's been, not speaking for the kids, it's been mostly great for all of us. But I will say, from my perspective, after 20 plus years in the Army, 19 of that, which we were together for, is I went to work, I go to work at 4:30 in the morning, come home at 6:30 at night, walk in the door and the laundry's not done and dinner's not ready and the house is a mess. And I'd be like, what does Kate do all day? And I'll say 3 weeks into this, I'm sorry. I apologize. I get it now. I thought I was going to retire out of the Army, and I was going to gain all of this time. I was going to have all this time to do all these things, whatever things I wanted to do, because nobody's going to be telling me what to do. But I quickly realized that, since I've had this, I do get up in the morning and make breakfast for everybody, before they go to school. But you drop off at school at 7:30. I go to the studio or come home and do some work around the house. All of a sudden it's 1 o'clock. I've got to get back to the house and pick up the kids and put the laundry in. And, I forgot to put meat out for dinner. So I got to go do that. I definitely didn't appreciate the lack of time. I thought you were just thought you were just taking naps all day. No. And now I realize that's not what's happening.
That's not what I do. No. But on the flip side, my expectation of full-time working, which I haven't really gotten into the meat of it yet, because I don't start with the kids until Monday. It's Thursday night. So I have 3.5 days. The exhaustion when I get home, And I used to be big about like dropping the kids off at school and I'd go for a run or I'd go work out or I'd go run some errands. Nope, there is none of that. I can work out at home at 5:30 or 6 at night, even though I don't want to, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, it's like I said, the role reversal, yes, on me has been
Yeah.
different, but it's been for me to set back as somebody who worked for 20 years and watched
Yeah.
Kate, because I really hit me the other night when Kate, she had came home and they were you guys were doing like a the sixth graders who haven't been into
Oh
school
yeah, yeah.
yet are
Like open house.
open
Yeah.
house are coming in to the school to meet the teachers and stuff, and you had some spirit, a spirit wear or a t-shirt that has the
Uh-huh.
school logos and
And I only
symbols,
have
and
one right now. I have to wash it.
so I saw Kate come home. It's 6. It's about 8 o'clock. The kids are in
Uh-huh.
bed, and Kate comes through with a load of laundry. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I need to wash my laundry. I need this shirt tomorrow." And I had a nice laugh internally at somebody who had to do that for years because I needed that uniform or I needed that set of
Yeah.
PTs for the next day.
Yeah, that's a whole nother ball game. I have to actually dress for work every day. I can't just go work out and wear my nasty workout clothes the rest of the day. That's not gonna
Yeah.
cut it.
Yeah.
So,
And that on my side, somebody who wore a uniform my whole
yeah.
life, I enjoy just like, I'm just going to wear these shorts and a t-shirt all day, and I can go
Yeah.
to the office and edit some photos and some videos and do some stuff or have meetings and
His
wear
flip
whatever.
flops.
Yeah, wear my Crocs and flip flops and do it. So it's been interesting seeing it
Yeah.
from that other
It's
perspective.
funny just what you're not used to, what you pick up on watching the other person in the opposite role.
Yeah, but it's been good, and I think it's like I said, we're new to it. It'll get as you really get into work and I figure out what I'm gonna do, but it's been uh, it's been a good reversal, and I think the key to all of this has been just the communication stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like it, and it's new. I've said it again. I'm repeating myself, but
Brand new.
um, I will say we're just gonna kind of bring this in and land the plane with some 3 pieces of advice or 3 lessons learned that we've had new to this retirement life, this post-military life, this role reversal life, and I'll start and we'll just go back and forth with the 3 pieces. But if I was telling somebody or I was talking to somebody who's thinking about retiring or hanging up the uniform, I would just tell them, slow down. Um, take your really slow down. Take a step back. Get that 10,000-foot view of what's going on, and try to shut off the outside noise. All the people asking you what you're going to do next, and where you're going to go, and what you're going to do, and where you're going to live. Slow down. Reset your priorities, and take care of yourself, and quit worrying about what everybody else is asking you about what you're going to do. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your marriage, and things. I've seen it with so many people that are in this transition process. They retire on May 1st. They start their GS, their government service job on May 15th, or they start their contracting job, or they go to school right away. And I'm telling you, I had all of that stuff thrown at me first. Do you want to take this job? Do you want to go get your executive MBA at this and that? And what I really had to do was just turn all that off and say, what I really need to do is just slow the heck down, reprioritize on what needs to happen, take care of the family, take care of the kids, take care of myself, and 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 just listen to myself for the first time, really, not all the outside influences. So when you get ready to retire, you're going to be getting all those same questions, and it's not just military retirement, it's anywhere you're in a life transition.
Yeah.
Whether you're graduating from college, people are going to ask you, what's next, what are you doing, and you might not know at that time, and them asking you that questions and that stuff all the time just adds that anxiety and makes it more difficult. So shut that stuff off the best you can and get with your people, your closest people, in my case the family, and focus on what's important. What's your number one?
Mine is to communicate about what you want, what your plans might be, kind of what you're thinking, also what the opposite person is thinking. Like I said, we communicated about the decision to retire, and it was because of the family, and that was what was important to us. And communicate about hard things like money, your finances. We're going to lose this much money a month, and it's only going to come in once a month. So, what next? Make sure you're ready for it and prepared, but it's important to have those hard discussions.
Yeah. The number two for me, it's only going to apply to the military types out there, but take care of your VA health, your VA healthcare, your mental and physical health through the VA. There's a lot of people that I know that came from my line of work that didn't put in VA claims and didn't take care of themselves through the VA because they were too proud or didn't have the courage or the vulnerability to say, my knee hurts, I get headaches, my back hurts, I can't sleep at night. And what happens is that stuff doesn't get put on their VA claim when they put it up, or if they don't put it up, or if they do, and you don't get a rating on it. And then in 10 years, when the knee goes out or your back goes out and it's definitely connected back to your service, it's going to be a lot harder to take care of that stuff retroactively instead of proactively beforehand. So claim everything that happened to the 20 or 30 years that you were in the service, put it on there
as much detail as possible,
because that's one of the reasons you served. You served for those benefits. Don't be too proud to do it, because if you are, you're just, in the end, you're screwing over your family. You're screwing over yourself, and you're not doing justice. I mean, you're just really, it's just a shame how many people I see leave the service. They don't take care of themselves mentally and physically, and they end up either having to do it way later. It takes a lot longer. They have to get a lot more documentation. But like I said, between my VA and my military retirement, I almost make the same amount of money as I did when I was in service. And you can look at that however you want to look at it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what other people think. It matters how you took care of yourself and how you take care of your family. And just take the time, be vulnerable, be honest with yourself, be honest with your providers, and take care of your VA stuff before you get out of service.
My number 2 is know your priorities. Like I said, have those hard discussions, have those hard talks, but our priority is our family, and we can both agree on that. And if your priority is something different, that's okay, but be open about it and talk about it, but know the reason for retiring, or the reason why you want to do XYZ, or what your priorities are in the future. I think it's important to be honest about that and to open up about it too.
Yeah. And then my number 3 is take some time off, and that's going to be relative to your situation, right? Whether you can financially take 6 months off or a week off, right? But it worked out. I said it earlier. You have a say of when you retire. If you retire from service, if you have kids, my last Army paycheck came May 1st. The kids got out of school, and we took, both of us took the summer off. Basically, we traveled, went to Florida, went out to my mom's for 3 weeks, went camping for a week.
We've never been able to do that.
And it's different when you're out of service. It is, you have your block leaves, you have, you have your
4-day
weekends. 4-day weekends, but to actually be able to just put my phone, leave it in the condo, leave it in the house, leave it in the camper, not have to check my email. I know nobody's going to call me because somebody got arrested or got a DWI or somebody did something, or God forbid everything, in the world goes to hell and I had to go into work and leave suddenly. That doesn't happen. And so actual time off without that hanging over your head is different. It is you can be completely present with your wife and your kids and really take in the moment without any back thought of, I wonder if I have a email, or I know what's coming up when I get back. I know what training event, I know what deployment's coming, I know what big thing's coming. And like I said, we were fortunate enough to be able to do it for
The whole summer.
75 days. But if it's even just a week,
Mm-hmm.
take some time off.
A weekend.
Shelf that stuff because, again, I've seen a lot of people retire over the years. They retired on Friday and they walked right back into the same building in civilian clothes on Monday and basically filled the same role in a government, in a GS, 12 or 13 and just kept grinding and
Mm-hmm.
never took the time to just really resettle and look at your life from a new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What's your number 3?
My third piece of advice is to take it one day at a time. Don't take notes from me and ignore what's coming. I do get stressed out about thinking of things that's happening in the future, what could be, what should be, what we're trying to expect, what we're hoping to happen. But for me, it's easy to take it one day at a time. And it makes me think about when Yuma was going through the process of retirement. He had his checklist of things that he needed to complete, his doctor's appointments, his paperwork he had to complete, his meetings he had to go to. And he did a little bit every day and just checked off that list every day. And instead of looking at things big picture and it's overwhelming, take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And it's a lot easier and a lot more manageable.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, that's a snapshot of what it looks like in, our like I said, my last day of military paycheck was May 1st, but I started terminal leave in February, so like 6 months into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's been great. We've learned a lot about each other. I've seen my kids in environments and stuff that I've never seen before.
Don't be fooled. We've definitely got on each other's nerves.
Yeah.
So.
I'm glad she's going to work. And the kids are
going
to
to
school.
school.
So everybody out there, thanks for listening. I hope you get something out of this. If you ever have questions
Mm-hmm.
about specifically service members who are transitioning
Mm-hmm.
out, have questions about how we did X or Y,
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to hit us
Mm-hmm.
up.
And from a spouse's point of view too,
Yep.
You can contact Yuma and he'll direct you to me as well. So.
Yep, just put it down in the comments, or most of you have my phone number that watch and listen, so just hit me up. But that's the point of this. We just want to share with you kind of our journey through this. So hopefully when it comes time for your decision making and transition, you can make the most informed and best. You can learn from our mistakes and hopefully also capitalize on our successes and have the best life possible as a husband, father, and retired guy, because it is pretty awesome after all the years that I put in. So thanks for watching. We'll get back to our weekly scheduled programming soon as I figure out the schedule with 4 kids getting them to school and picking them up from school and all that stuff. But be sure you like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment. It all adds up and helps out the channel. And we'll check in with you guys soon. Thanks.
Bye.